In North America, it gets really cold in the winter and really hot in the summer. What causes this wide range of temperatures? Some people think that it's because in the winter the Earth is farther away from the sun and that's why it's colder. But actually that's not true. In fact, looking at this diagram, we see that the Earth is closer to the sun in the winter month of January than it is in the warm summer month of July. So, why is it so cold in January? It is because of the tilt of the Earth. In January, the Earth is tilted away from the sun, and many of the sun's powerful beams glance off the Earth into space. But in the summer, the Earth is tilted toward the Earth, and it receives the full force of the sun's warming rays. The bad news in the Christian life is that you and I are born in a spiritual winter. By nature, we are tilted away from the sun of righteousness. But the good news is that unlike the Earth, we can let God change our tilt so that we can be tilted towards God and receive the full brunt of those powerful rays of the sun of righteousness. Only God can perform that supernatural shift in our very natures. Only God can do it, but only you and I can let Him. This week I am sharing a week of prayer with Kunti Seventh-day Adventist Primary and Secondary School in Ranchi, India. This school has over 1,200 students, half of whom live in the dormitories. Ranchi, India is about an hour's flight east of New Delhi, and it is a ruralish city compared to some of the bigger cities in India. You know, a lot of these students come from broken homes and great poverty. And in their stories, we see how the devil strives to take advantage of our sinful nature to wreak havoc in our lives. But it wasn't always that way. Before Adam and Eve sinned, their natural inclination was to do God's will and to go His way. Their delight was in God's way. But after they sinned, our nature became bent and broken. And now our natural desire is to sin. Our natural desire is to go our own way, go away from God, rather than towards Him. Paul calls this sinful nature the flesh and proclaims, "The mind set on the flesh is hostile toward God. For it does not subject itself to the law of God, for it is not even able to do so. And those who are in the flesh cannot please God." Ellen White puts it this way: as soon as Adam sinned, he was in harmony with the first great apostate and at war with God. The bad news, my friends, is that we are at war with God. And what is this battle that God is fighting and that we are fighting against Him? My friends, God's battle is to bless us. Isaiah proclaims, "Therefore the Lord longs to be gracious to you, and therefore He waits on high to have compassion on you. How blessed are all those who long for Him." But do we really fight God? Don't we want His blessings? Why would we fight Him? Yes, we do fight God, and yes, we do want His blessings. We fight God for two reasons. The first reason is because not all of God's blessings are naturally attractive to us. Some of God's blessings include things like self-denial and self-sacrifice and sorrow and suffering and discomfort for the good of others. We are not naturally attracted to these, and so sometimes we fight God. But even with the blessings that we want, that we are attracted to, we're not always willing to pay the price for them. Let me give you an illustration of what I mean. Let's say that we are doing a community health survey in our neighborhood, and we go to our local hamburger restaurant and we see a guy sitting there by himself eating this huge hamburger, this large fries, and a full-size Coke. And we go up to him and we ask him, "Would you be willing to take our survey?" And he says, "Sure, no problem." So we ask him our first question: "Do you want to be blessed?" And he'll sputter through his fries and wipe the grease off his chin and says, "Of course I want to be blessed. Who wouldn't want to be blessed?" What kind of question is that? So we ask him our second question: "Do you want to be healthy?" And then he says, "Of course, yes." Again, why are these easy questions? Give me a hard question. So we ask him, "Would you like to have lower blood cholesterol? Would you like to have lower blood pressure? Would you like to have less weight? Would you like to have healthier body?" And he'll say, "Yes, yes, 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 and yes." Now ask me a hard question. So we ask him our final question: "If you want all these healthy things, then why are you eating this food? Don't you recognize that this food is going against all of those healthy things that you want?" And do you know what he'll say? He'll say, "Yes, I know. I know this isn't healthy for me, but it tastes so good." My friends, That is our sinful nature talking. Yes, we want health. Yes, we want God's good blessings, but we're not always willing to do what it takes to receive those good blessings because our sinful nature is attracted to the things that taste so good but are so unhealthy for us. Ellen White tells us, self is the enemy we most need to fear. No other victory we can gain will be so precious as the victory gained over self. In another place she writes, we have no enemy outside of ourselves that we need to fear. Our great conflict is with unconsecrated self. When we conquer self, we are more than conquerors through Him who has loved us. My friends, self is the enemy we most need to fear. Self fights God. Self has got to go. No matter what it takes, no matter how radical, self has got to go. On April 26, 2003, Aron Ralston was climbing in the Blue John Canyons in Utah. These are narrow canyons filled with boulders, and as he was scrambling over the boulders, one of them shifted and it pinned his hand to the side of the wall of the canyon. He was 15 to 20 feet down below the surface. Nobody was around for miles. Nobody could hear his calls for help. He tried for 3 days to free himself from his hand that was caught. He tried shifting the boulder. He tried pulling his hand out. He tried everything that he could. And after 3 days, his food and water running out, he prepared to die. He took out his pocket camera and recorded his last will and testament and a video to his family and prepared to die. But Aron Ralston did not die, because as he was sitting there, he realized there was a way that he could get free from the flesh that was pinning him to this earth. It was radical, but it might work. So he took out the dull pocket knife that was in his pocket and he cut off his hand. It took him an hour, and the pain was so excruciating. Sometimes he would almost pass out, but when he came back, he would say, I'm that much closer to being free, and he would keep on going. And for the full hour, he kept on cutting away until he was able to get free. My friends, you and I also have flesh that is pinning us to this earth, and it will kill us. The only solution is the radical solution. To surrender our lives wholly to God, to let Him cut away the flesh that is pinning us to this world. Jesus says, if your hand causes you to stumble, cut it off. Well, obviously God wasn't telling us to mutilate our bodies. What He was telling us, my friends, is that whatever it takes, be willing to do the radical thing so that God can get rid of that flesh, that self. Self is the enemy we most need to fear. No other victory we can gain will be so precious as the victory gained over self. If you would like to know more about the self problem and the solution, I encourage you to go to my website, delighting.org, or to the Facebook page, Delighting in the Almighty, and look for presentation number 4, The Root of the Problem.